You know, there is this really specific paradox in the tech industry right now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You look around any engineering team or, any startup, and you just see so many incredibly smart, hardworking people.
Right, people who are just constantly shipping clean code.
Exactly. They hit their sprint deadlines. They build these objectively solid careers. And honestly, you listening to this deep dive right now, you are almost certainly one of them.
Statistically speaking, yeah, highly likely.
And here is the really uncomfortable reality we want to confront today. Why do so many of these brilliant, ambitious professionals spend their entire lives doing really good work, but never truly great work?
It is, it's the ultimate question, isn't it, for anyone who actually wants to leave a mark on their field.
Yeah.
And it really forms the whole foundation of the source material for today's deep dive. We are looking at this sweeping 2023 essay by Paul Graham.
Titled, How to Do Great Work.
Right. And Graham has spent decades, literally decades, observing founders, engineers, creators, and he basically set out to find the intersection of techniques used across all fields to produce exceptional results.
Like a universal algorithm.
Exactly. He wanted to know if there's a recipe, whether you are a physicist, a painter, or, a developer trying to build the next wave of artificial intelligence.
And I love that he didn't just write some fluffy motivational piece.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
It's incredibly dense.
Yeah. So our mission today is to extract that core algorithm. We are going to break down the highly specific daily routines you need to protect your focus.
Which is so crucial right now.
It really is. And fundamentally, we are going to challenge this deeply ingrained cultural idea that just grinding away, putting your head down and working long hours is enough to push you to the frontier of your field.
Because it just isn't.
Yeah.
To understand what actually pushes someone to the frontier,
Yeah.
we really have to look at what usually holds people back.
Right.
And in most cases, it is a fundamental misunderstanding of what drives work in the first place. The traditional model we are all taught from childhood, it relies so heavily on diligence.
Just showing up?
Yeah, you show up on time, you sit at your desk, you complete the tasks assigned to you.
It's basically the industrial factory model, but applied to cognitive labor.
That is a perfect way to put it. And Graham argues that diligence is entirely insufficient for great work.
You can't just willpower your way into a paradigm shift.
You really can't. You cannot force yourself to do profound work. The most powerful motives, he says, are actually curiosity, delight, and the desire to do something impressive.
Delight is such a weird word to hear in tech.
It is. But when those three elements converge, curiosity, delight, and wanting to be impressive, you unlock this engine for work that diligence couldn't possibly match.
Which brings us into direct conflict with the education system, right? Because that system actively breaks our mental models of work.
Oh, completely shatters them.
Think about it. Schools are designed to induce passivity. From the time you are a little kid, an authority figure stands at the front of the room, they hand you a highly defined problem, and then they test you on your ability to solve it.
You're just trained to hack the test.
Exactly. But in the real world, especially if you're in software engineering or building a company, no one is handing you a syllabus.
There is no rubric.
Right.
Right.
You have to figure out what the problems are yourself. And you don't even know if the problems you choose are actually solvable.
And that creates this highly dangerous dynamic for ambitious people. Because the educational system operates on this bizarre assumption that a teenager can miraculously guess what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Which is insane.
It is. So an ambitious person who hasn't figured out their specific calling yet, they often read to the system as broken.
Like they're failing.
Yeah. They are scrambling diagonally across these tracks that were rigidly laid down for people who are perfectly content to just passively follow instructions.
But wait, let me push back on this a bit. Because if you look at the prevailing culture in Silicon Valley or any major tech hub right now, it isn't passive at all.
No, it's very aggressive.
It is entirely built on the 80-hour work week, right? The
Yeah.
hustle, the endless grind. So if diligence isn't the answer, is Graham saying we should just work smarter, not harder? Just work fewer hours and hope our curiosity magically pays the bills?
No, Graham is absolutely not advocating for working less. He's very clear on this. The empirical evidence that you have to work relentlessly hard to do great things is, as he puts it, on the scale of the evidence for mortality.
Okay, so you still have to put in the hours.
You absolutely do. The distinction he's making is about the source of the energy fueling that hard work.
The fuel, not the vehicle.
Right. If you are deeply, genuinely interested in a subject, That interest will drive you to work far harder than mere diligence or some toxic hustle culture mindset ever could.
Because it doesn't feel like a grind.
Exactly. You aren't grinding because you are forcing yourself to meet a metric. You are grinding because you literally cannot stop pulling at the thread of the problem.
Okay, so blind diligence isn't the answer, but relentless curiosity is. And that leads directly into the actual mechanism Graham observed in people who reach the top of their fields.
The four-step algorithm.
Yeah. Instead of just a vague concept, he breaks it down into this highly specific progression. First, you have to choose a field. Second, you have to learn enough about that field to get to the frontier of knowledge.
Which takes years.
Oh, absolutely. Then third, you have to notice the gaps at that frontier. And fourth, you explore the most promising ones.
And honestly, that very first step, choosing a field, it is far messier than people want to admit.
It's not just picking a major.
No. It requires a combination of natural aptitude, deep interest, and scope for great work.
Though he does say ambitious people don't really need to worry about the scope part.
Right, because ambitious people are naturally drawn to hard problems with big scopes. The real challenge is finding what you are excessively curious about.
Excessively.
Yeah, you are looking for a topic that fascinates you to a degree that would honestly bore most other people to tears.
But how do you actually find that? You can't just sit in a dark room and think your way into a life's passion.
You really can't. You have to guess.
Just guess?
Basically, yeah. You make an educated guess about what might interest you, and you just start working.
That makes sense.
The goal is to make yourself a massive target for luck. By constantly building small things, exploring random tangents, putting your work out into the world, you drastically increase the surface area for a genuinely fascinating problem to collide with your skill set.
That's a great way to frame it, a target for luck. And once you find that field, the second step is getting to the frontier. And this is where Graham describes knowledge as being fractal.
Which completely reframes how we think about expertise.
It totally does. If you imagine learning a field like zooming in on a digital map of a coastline, from 1,000 miles up, the edge of human knowledge looks perfectly smooth and complete.
Like everything is figured out.
Right. It looks like the foundational pioneers already did all the hard work. But as you learn more, you zoom in, you read the source code, you understand the architecture, and once you get all the way down to the actual frontier...
The edge is incredibly jagged.
Yes. It is full of these massive, glaring, unexplored gaps.
And standing at that jagged edge brings us to the third step, which is noticing those gaps. And the psychological reality here is that noticing what is missing is incredibly difficult.
But wait, if you are an expert and you're standing right at the edge of the map, a gap in knowledge should be blindingly obvious, right? I mean, you are literally staring right at it.
It should be. But the human brain naturally wants to ignore anomalies.
Why?
Because cognitive load is expensive. We crave a simple, comfortable, unified model of the world because it is biologically cheaper to maintain.
Oh, wow. So we just filter it out?
Yeah, when a piece of reality doesn't fit our existing mental model, our instinct is not to investigate it. Our instinct is to look away and just pretend it isn't there.
That makes so much sense.
It takes immense, deliberate skill to stop and ask questions about the foundational things that everyone else in your industry just takes for granted.
And that brings us to the modern frontier, which, let's be real, is shifting violently right now.
Especially in tech.
Yeah, we are in the era of AI. We have this emerging trend of vibe coding.
Oh, vibe coding, yeah.
Where developers are using AI models to generate entire complex code bases just through natural language prompts. You're not manually typing out syntax anymore.
It's wild.
The very definition of what it means to write software is fundamentally changing. So if you are a developer standing at that specific jagged edge, staring at a massive gap in how humans interact with machines, the sheer scale of the unknown is paralyzing.
It's overwhelming.
How do you actually begin exploring a gap that large without just freezing up?
Well, Graham's advice here is refreshingly anti-corporate.
Okay, what does he say?
He says you do not start by writing a massive 50-page roadmap for a world-changing system.
No Jira boards.
No Jira boards. You start by building the tool that you personally want to use.
Just for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you make something you genuinely want, you guarantee an audience of at least one. And human nature dictates that your friends or peers probably have similar interests, so you will likely reach them too.
That reminds me of his point about starting incredibly small and just evolving through successive versions.
Right, doing the simplest thing that could possibly work.
Yeah. He actually calls planning a necessary evil for inflexible media. Like, if you were building a physical skyscraper, yes, you absolutely must plan.
You can't just wing a foundation.
No, you can't. But in flexible spaces like software or writing, your designs should evolve organically based on what you learn by actually building the thing.
And this evolutionary approach leads to a phenomenon that I think derails a lot of creators.
The toy comment.
Yes. When you release that early, simple, scrappy version of a project, people will almost universally dismiss it. They will call it a toy.
Oh man, you see this all the time. You build a weekend side project, you throw it on GitHub, and the first comment on Hacker News is always, well, this is cute, but it doesn't scale.
Yep. Every single time. But Graham points out that being called a toy is actually one of the most massive compliments your work can receive.
Really? A compliment?
Think about what a toy actually is. It is engaging, it is fun, and it solves a specific user desire.
Okay, yeah.
It means your project has every single piece of DNA a new idea needs to succeed, except scale.
And scale is just a secondary problem.
Exactly. Scale is just an engineering problem that can always be added later. If your idea is exciting and useful on a micro level, you are already onto something great.
Okay, so building a toy is the spark. But the real threat is that the stork simply dies on a random Tuesday morning because you have 50 unread emails and 3 meetings to attend.
The daily grind kills it.
Right. How do you actually execute on that side project, day after day? Graham gets highly specific about the mechanics of the developer's routine here, and this is where we have to talk about protecting your focus.
And the first rule of Graham's routine is a direct strike against that 12-hour grind mentality we talked about.
That's the rule.
He states that the absolute hardest, frontier-level cognitive work can only be sustained from 4 to 5 contiguous hours a day.
Wait, really? Just 4 to 5 hours?
That is the biological limit. If you try to push past that with deep architectural thinking, you suffer severe diminishing returns.
Your brain just taps out.
Mental fatigue literally makes you stupid. So the goal of a great developer or creator is not to sit at a keyboard for 14 hours. The goal is to aggressively arrange your life to protect large blocks of uninterrupted time so you can actually get those 4 to 5 high-quality hours.
That makes a lot of sense, because the subconscious mind is fragile. If you know you might be interrupted, like by a Slack ping, a sudden meeting, a text from your boss, your brain will instinctively shy away from the hardest, most complex tasks.
It won't even start them.
Because it knows it won't have the runway to finish them. But okay, if we're only doing deep work for 4 hours, what are you supposed to do with the other 19 hours of the day?
This is where you leverage undirected thinking.
Undirected thinking.
Yeah, you cannot solve every complex coding problem by frontal attack, just staring at a monitor until your eyes bleed.
Yeah.
You have to let your mind wander while you're walking or taking a shower or lying in bed.
I feel like all my best ideas come in the shower.
Same. But there is a crucial caveat here. You have to be working incredibly hard in the normal, focused way to actually benefit from this. You cannot just daydream all day and expect breakthrough.
Right, you have to prime the pump.
Exactly. The deliberate 4-hour block of hard work is what feeds your brain the specific questions it needs to process in the background while you are, doing the dishes.
So it is this deliberate cycle of intense focus followed by deep relaxation. But honestly, getting into that initial focus block is usually the hardest part of the day.
Oh, the friction is real.
Graham introduces this concept of activation energy. It's the idea that the energy required to start working each morning is artificially higher than the energy required to keep working once you are actually in the flow state.
It is a totally fake psychological threshold.
Yeah. The reluctance to sit down and untangle a messy code base is not a moral failing. It's not a flaw in your character. It is just the inherent friction of doing hard things.
And Graham's strategy for beating this activation energy is essentially, to lie to yourself.
I love this part. It's exactly like jump-starting a cold engine.
How so?
You wake up, you don't want to look at your IDE, so you tell yourself, look, I am just going to read over the code I wrote yesterday. I am not going to write a single line of new logic.
It's just a quick review.
Right. You do this knowing full well that within 5 minutes of reading, you are going to spot a bug or realize a function is missing, and boom, the engine turns over. You are fully locked into the work.
It is such a highly effective psychological hack. But we do have to distinguish between the daily friction that hack solves and a much more insidious threat Graham identifies.
Which is?
Per project procrastination.
Oh, man. This hits close to home.
Daily procrastination is putting off your work until after lunch. Per project procrastination is putting off starting an ambitious project from year to year because you tell yourself, oh, the time isn't quite right, or I need to learn one more framework first.
Or I'll do it when Q3 wraps up. And procrastination is infinitely more dangerous because it doesn't actually feel like procrastination.
It camouflages itself.
It camouflages as industriousness. You don't feel lazy because you are incredibly busy. You're answering emails, you're updating roadmaps, you are clearing out routine Jira tickets.
You're doing the dishes of your career.
Yes. You are literally too busy doing good work to notice that you are actively avoiding the great work you actually want to do.
You are hiding from the frontier by burying yourself in the safe, well-mapped territory.
Okay, so let's assume you conquer that. You stop hiding. You build your routine. You protect your 4 hours of deep focus. You beat the activation energy, and you start building your toy.
You're doing the work.
That routine gets the work done. But what ensures the work is actually original. How do you make sure you're not just reinventing the wheel?
Well, Graham's thesis on originality is entirely counterintuitive. He argues that originality is not a process or a formula you can follow.
It's not a framework.
No, it is a habit of mind. He describes truly original thinkers as throwing off new ideas, like an angle grinder throwing off sparks.
What a great visual.
Isn't it? They literally cannot help it. It is just a byproduct of how they interact with the world.
But if it's just a habit of mind, how do you cultivate it? You know, if you don't naturally throw off sparks. Graham says you have to be strictly, relentlessly observant.
Remember our discussion about the brain naturally ignoring anomalies to save energy?
Right. Cognitive load.
Being strict means doing the exact opposite. It means hyperfixating on the trail of clues left behind when broken mental models bash against reality. Graham uses Einstein as the perfect example of this.
How so?
Einstein didn't just wake up one day and decide to invent relativity out of thin air. He was simply stricter about the implications of Maxwell's equations than any other physicist alive.
He didn't look away from the math.
Exactly. When the math implied something that broke the existing model of the universe, Einstein didn't look away from the breakage. He demanded that the model be fixed.
And once you see that a model is broken, you have to be willing to break the accepted rules of your industry to fix it.
You have to be a rule breaker.
Yeah, and Graham highlights 2 ways to be a rule breaker. You can be aggressively independent-minded, meaning you actively enjoy the naughtiness of tearing down established dogma.
The rebels.
Right. Or you can be passively independent-minded.
And passive rule breaking is fascinating because it happens when someone simply does not care about the rules or doesn't even know they exist.
Like a beginner.
Exactly. This is exactly why novices, outsiders, and people who are not deeply entrenched in the academic politics of a field often make the most massive breakthroughs.
They just don't know any better.
They have a temporary immunity to conventional beliefs. They aren't trying to rebel. They just walk right past the do not enter signs because they don't know how to read them.
Which totally flips our pop culture understanding of this stuff. Usually we think of strict people as the ultimate rule followers.
In trivial, everyday matters, strictness and rule breaking are opposites. But in questions that really matter, out at the very jagged edge of human knowledge, only rule breakers can be truly strict.
Wow.
Because the old, accepted rules are the exact things obscuring the truth.
That mindset naturally leads to Graham's advice on working on unfashionable problems.
Which is so relevant right now.
It is. We see this trap in the tech industry constantly. Everyone rushes toward the current hype cycle. Right now, it's building thin wrappers around large language models.
Everyone is doing it.
Every single startup pitch. But Graham argues there is massive overlooked value in taking a problem that everyone else thinks is fully tapped out or completely out of fashion and demonstrating its latent potential.
Working on unfashionable problems is a superpower.
Why is that?
Because when you work away from the hype, there is no hurry. You don't have opportunists and venture capitalists breathing down your neck to ship a half-baked product.
You actually have time to think.
You have the breathing room to actually focus on the depth and elegance of the work itself.
It perfectly captures a contradiction, Graham points out. Truly new ideas are simultaneously obvious and incredibly hard to discover.
It's paradoxical.
Yeah. Once you do the brutal work of fixing a broken mental model, the resulting new idea seems so obvious. Everyone looks at it and says, why didn't no one think of this before?
But doing the foundational work to fix the model is agonizing.
Exactly. And crucially, a genuinely good new idea often has to seem bad to most people at first.
It is a logical necessity. I mean, if a new idea seemed obviously good to everyone right away, A massive corporation or a well-funded team would have already built it.
Right, Microsoft would have shipped it last year.
Exactly. So as a creator, you are actively hunting for ideas that seem a little crazy, but the right kind of crazy. You want ideas that sound implausible to the mainstream, but are rich in deep implications to you, even if they completely violate the current implicit rules of your field.
But man, to sustain that kind of contrarian approach over years, working on unfashionable, crazy problems, breaking rules, maintaining extreme strictness, you are going to face a wall of friction.
Constant friction.
Doing great work is ultimately a test of endurance. And this is where the mechanics of what Graham calls husbanding your morale become critical.
Morale is not just a nice-to-have emotional state. Graham argues that it is the fundamental infrastructure of any ambitious project.
You have to protect it.
You must treat your morale like a living, breathing organism. You have to nurture it. If you allow a single massive setback to destroy your morale all at once, the project is finished.
He relates this to computer science, describing the pursuit of great work as a depth-first search.
That's a great analogy for developers.
It really is. In a depth-first search algorithm, you go as deep down a specific path as possible. When you inevitably hit a dead end, you don't throw away the whole map.
Right.
You backtrack up to the last junction and you try the next path. Backtracking is literally a design feature of the search process. It is not a failure.
Reframing setbacks as algorithmic backtracking is vital. I mean, solving hard problems guarantees that you will hit dead ends.
But I do struggle with how Graham approaches this next part. He explicitly says that the motivational poster slogan, "Never give up," is actually bad advice.
It is a bit shocking to hear.
Right, that goes against every piece of startup lore in Silicon Valley. Is he saying we should just quit when the code won't compile or the market rejects the product?
Not at all. He is saying that stubbornly banging your head against a literal brick wall isn't noble. It is just a waste of time.
So what's the alternative?
Graham revises "never give up" into something much more precise and actionable. He says, never let setbacks panic you into backtracking more than you need to. And the vital corollary to that is never abandon the root node.
And the root node being your core desire to do the work in the first place.
Exactly. You might have to throw away a prototype you spent 3 months building. You might have to abandon a massive code base because the architecture was fundamentally flawed.
Or pivot your whole business model.
Right, that happens all the time.
Right.
That is all just backtracking. But you never, ever abandon the foundational curiosity and the desire to solve the problem that drove you to start in the first place.
And one of the best ways to keep that root node alive is to harness the power of questions. Graham notes that a really good piercing question is actually a partial discovery in itself.
It's like half the battle.
Yeah. He talks about the value of carrying unanswered questions around with you for years, even weird, specific questions you had when you were a kid.
It highlights the difference between actual frontier-level expertise and the popular sterilized picture of it.
Like the guy in the lab coat on TV.
Right. In the popular imagination, an expert is someone who is utterly certain. They stand at a whiteboard and they have all the answers. But in reality, the more puzzled you are by the universe, the better suited you are for great work.
You have to embrace the confusion.
Originality consists partly of deep confusion. You have to be comfortable enough with the world being full of complex puzzles that you are willing to see them, but not so comfortable that you lose the burning desire to solve them.
And if you keep asking those questions and you consistently apply your 4 to 5 hours of focus-protected effort every single day, you eventually tap into the physics of exponential growth.
The quiet magic of consistency.
It really is magic. Writing a single page a day results in a book every year. Writing a few clean functions a day results in a functional app. But people drastically underrate consistency because early on, an exponential curve feels completely discouragingly flat.
The human brain cannot grasp exponential growth intuitively. It just can't. Whether you are learning a new programming language, trying to grow an audience for a sauce tool, or unraveling a complex mathematical proof, the initial phase is always unrewarding.
It feels like you are pouring energy into a black hole.
Exactly. But the people who ultimately do great things, they push through that initial flat line. They understand that getting something done every single day rather than nothing creates a compounding effect that is mathematically staggering over a timeline of years.
So let's pull all of these threads together. Transitioning from doing perfectly acceptable good work to truly great work means aggressively finding the jagged edge of your frontier.
Finding the gaps.
Right. It means pulling on the specific weird threads of your own curiosity rather than waiting for a manager to assign you a task. It means tricking your daily activation energy so you can get into a flow state and actively embracing the things that feel a little bit strange or toy-like or rule-breaking to the rest of your industry.
And if we bring this directly to you, the person listening right now, consider this your wake-up call to stop per-project procrastination.
Stop hiding behind your inbox.
Yes. Stop waiting for the mythical perfect time to start that ambitious side project you've been thinking about for 2 years. Stop camouflaging your delay with performative busy work, clearing out Jira tickets, and tweaking your productivity apps. If you leverage consistent, daily, focused effort, you are far richer in time than you think.
We want to leave you with a final, lingering thought. It's a question straight from Paul Graham's philosophy, and it is something you should seriously ponder the next time you are staring at a blank screen.
It's a powerful question.
If you were going to take a break from your serious day-to-day work, your endless sprint plannings, your corporate roadmaps, and you had to focus on something just because it would be deeply, genuinely interesting to you, what would you do? Because according to Graham, your honest answer to that question is probably the exact thing you should be working on.